Hey guys, Jack on Wrist here, back with another video, and in today's video, in honor of the fall and Halloween season, I want to talk about some scary watch deals. Scary good, that is. So today we're talking about 3 of the best deals in all of watchmaking in my personal and humble opinion. So we're going to be going in order of price, and so without further ado, let's get started with the first watch, which is the Casio A700. This is a watch I personally own myself, and it's of the same lineage or ilk of the Casio A178 and A168, which are really those stainless steel, affordable Casios that you see often in the wild. So the Casio A700 is very similar to those pieces in the sense of the module being very similar. You don't get a ton of features compared to a lot of the higher end Casios and G-Shocks that are out there. But what you make up for that is amazing retro styling. Besides your basic features like your alarm and stopwatch and pretty good luminescence, what you get in this watch is pretty much one of the best deals in all of watchmaking from the perspective of getting a retro inspired or vintage design. That pretty much brings me to the next piece of the puzzle here, which is the price. And this watch is only a $30 watch. I actually bought this piece when I was consolidating my collection and I really didn't want to buy it, but for $30, it's kind of a no-brainer type of piece. And just looking at this piece, you can tell it has some awesome styling to it. It really gives off a 1980s, 1990s sort of retro look, and I really enjoy that. It also has a true stainless steel bracelet that does not take the hairs off of your wrist, which is a huge bonus because a lot of the other Casios seem to do that. And the only real disadvantage is that this case is made of resin. So yeah, because of that, the watch is not going to feel very substantial. It's going to feel a little light on the wrist. But let's be honest, this is a very light and sort of dainty piece in general anyway. It's not like you knew you were buying a G-Shock with this piece. So I personally don't have a problem with it. And again, for the $30 price point, I think it's one of the better deals in watchmaking that you can find. So going from one great retro inspired watch to another, the next piece we're talking about here today is the Timex Marlin Chronograph. This is probably one of the more hyped up Timex watches I've seen in a number of years, pretty much dating back to the Timex GMT that came out a few years ago. It seems like everyone wanted this piece and it wasn't really available, but now it's starting to become more available on sites like Amazon for a price of about $166. So in many ways, similar to the previous Casio A700 that I just discussed, this piece is pretty much a great value, mostly because of its awesome retro styling combined with a real solid brand on the dial. Again, some of the details here are probably less than ideal, but you're only paying about $150 for this piece, so I can't really complain too much. This does have an acrylic crystal, a decent bracelet, and a meca-quartz movement. So sure, for that same $150, $160 or so you spend on this particular watch, you might get better raw specifications when you look on a site like AliExpress. But personally, I'm not a huge fan of those types of watches. Maybe it's just my bias, but I don't really care so much about the sapphire crystal I might get or a slightly better bracelet on paper. I'd rather have a complete package. When you look at this particular watch as a complete package, I think it's a great deal. I mean, just look at this watch. It looks like a Paul Newman Daytona for a fraction of the price, and really it just looks amazing in every picture I see on wrist. I mean, I will certainly be trying to buy this watch very soon, and again, it's readily available at this point seemingly, and I think it's one of the best deals in watchmaking. So that brings me to my last selection here for this video, which is going to be more of a broad pick because I'm going to be picking basically all of the Seiko 5 GMTs. Pretty much any of the 4R34 based watches from Seiko with that awesome GMT movement are going to be an amazing deal for you. It seems like most of them sit in the $300 to $400 price point. They have some of the original ones that came out a couple of years ago now, and then they sort of added more to the collection with the field sort of Rolex Explorer II styled ones. And either way you go, they are just awesome watches in my opinion. I mean, sure, they still have some of the same downsides as any Seiko seemingly at that lower price point. You're going to get that Hardlex crystal, that decent but albeit not amazing bracelet. But what you get is, again, pretty good execution from a really serious brand, and I think you get some great value with an automatic GMT movement, and again, they just look like awesome pieces. And I'll bring up the same counter argument that I made for the Timex just a moment ago. Yes, you certainly can get awesome watches from AliExpress with very similar, if not better, specifications. I don't doubt for a second you can find a similar watch with a 4R34 movement, with a sapphire crystal, with a better bracelet in some ways, but I don't think they really put it together in one package, in my humble opinion. I've owned a few different watches from various brands from an AliExpress, and I just think that when you go mainstream, you get not only heritage that I think really does mean something in my opinion, but again, the execution just seems to be a little better. I know people will complain about the QC issues from Seiko, but I really do think that they do a good job generally speaking. I don't want to overplay the heritage and history piece, but I really think it means something to me personally, as I just said, to have a real brand on the wrist. And so to have a Seiko GMT with an automatic movement and a pretty decent bracelet goes a long way for me. I made a video not too long ago comparing a $70 Chinese watch to my Rolex Explorer, and yes, that was not really a super fair comparison, but what I saw was that even though you see a watch on an AliExpress with awesome stats and specifications, when you get it in person, it doesn't always meet the mark. I mean, the watch that I had in that particular video said it had solid links, solid end links, a milled clasp, and in person it really kind of felt pretty crappy. And so despite having the same specifications, it obviously did not live up to the hype. Maybe that's not every experience on somewhere like AliExpress with their watches, but it has been a very common trend for me personally. And so when you look at this Casio that I talked about, the A700, the Timex Marlin Chronograph, and then this Seiko GMT, I think what you have is three awesome watches that are really some of the best value for money that there is. Of course, there's other great value for money watches outside of pieces from AliExpress. I didn't mean to make that the only counter argument in this video, but I do think that they are sort of a common stream that people have been going to over the past couple of years. If you guys have any awesome recommendations for budget watches and great value watches, please let me know them in the comment section down below. I love interacting with every one of you. But that being said, that's pretty much it for this video. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.